There it is. I knew I could get it sooner or later. I didn't start everything. It's 8 o'clock. Welcome to the Bible Forum. I'm Warren Sprouse. You are my guest for the rest of this evening, at least for the next couple of hours. We're going to be looking at life through a biblical lens and generally solving all the world's problems in, about 2 hours or less. We're doing something a little different tonight. I don't know exactly how it's going to work out, but we're going to be testing some new systems. I am recording the audio portion separate, and I am also in the process of trying to figure out segments so that we can do this in an orderly fashion. I'll tell you a little bit about what's going on. This is going to be for the next several weeks, I don't know how long, a kind of a testing ground to gauge the length of each segment based on the material that I have at hand. I was initially thinking that I was going to have to structure each of these broadcasts into 10 or 12 minute segments, but I think that I can do it a different way by recording the audio separate, and then I can go ahead and cut those up into the pieces that I want. This all sounds like great confusion, I'm sure, to you, my loyal listeners, but I did get word this week that the Big Talker radio station in Wilmington, North Carolina is going to go back on the air, and at this point it looks like I will be part of their lineup. The Lockman Foundation has purchased the signal, I guess. I don't know if they purchased the property. I don't know how this is all going to work. From what I understand, there's not going to be anybody there but an engineer, somebody to run the equipment. The Lockman Foundation is headquartered up in Raleigh. Chad Adams, you may remember Chad Adams if you're in the Wilmington market. Chad works for them now. He used to work for the Big Talker, at least when I was there. And he tells me that they're doing all of this by remote control. There won't be anybody at the station, apparently. So it looks like podcasts, which means it won't be live. I won't be able to tell you, well, you can listen on radio in Wilmington, or you can watch me on the YouTube, or the internet, Ustream, because that'll be two different programs. But if you miss tonight, you can go next week. It'll be broadcast. It's one of those kinds of things. We'll see how all that ends up working. You know how these things are. They start out great, and then who knows where they're going to end up. But I'm excited about it. I think it's a good opportunity. There's a number of people in Wilmington that I hear from periodically. They don't have computers, or some of the older folks don't know how to work them. And so being able to have that online, on the air there locally, that'll be a big help. Wish I would be able to interact with those folks with some kind of regular, like I do with you. I mean, I can just look over here at the chat room, and I can see the folks in there, and we can have a little conversation, or I can just see what you're talking about. It's a little different when you're doing it with a podcast. I got my books out this week. I haven't been putting them out lately, but I want you to. I want you to buy the books. I mean, if you're in a situation where you can't afford to buy the book, I'll give it to you. I mean, I just think the material is that important. The yellow one over here is called My Journey with George. It's the story of a woman who died of cancer, and the 2.5-year process that was for her, and the kinds of things that she learned, the things God taught her. And if you know anybody that's suffering not just cancer, but a disease, a debilitating disease, it's a great book. She didn't pull any punches. She felt it. She told you about it. If she thought it, she expressed it. And it wasn't all honey and roses and ice cream. You know, it was hard work. It was pain. It was frustration. It was a lot of things. But she kept drawing on the Lord, and He kept giving her the grace. And that's the message all through that book. And you need to get that book. It's about $15, $16. I don't know. You can go online and look it up. You go to my website, thebibleforum.net, and click the link for books, and you'll see it there. So you can buy it yourself if you want to, or if you don't, you can, let me know, and I'll send you a copy, whatever it takes. The other one is Frontal Assault. And it's a book that becomes more timely every day. You read the news and you see it. The devil himself is at work. He knows his time is short, and he's just pushing. Well, he's always been doing that. And all through church history, we can see his hand working in the church, trying to destroy the doctrines, trying to destroy the people. And the interesting study in all of this is that regardless of when he pops up or these things come around again, they're always the same. They have different names, different faces, a little different variation, but it's always the same. The attack is always on the Word of God. And that's why I want you to get involved with the Bible Institute of Charleston. I want you to learn Bible doctrine. I want you to be rooted so that when people come along and say stupid stuff, you'll know it's stupid stuff. I'm going to start teaching a Sunday school class in our church here in Charleston, South Carolina next month. And you just rack your brain and say, okay, well, what are we going to... We're going to learn doctrine. Now, it's not going to be the Bible Institute or anything like that, but we're going to start out with the importance of this sort of thing, and then we're going to build on that and talk about all this. Sunday school is a little different format, a little give and take. I want to meet the needs of the people that are there and so forth, but we're going to do what we can to kind of reinforce every way possible this idea of Bible doctrine. It's that important. If you do not know, if you do not understand Bible doctrine, there's just 100 things that are going to jump all over you one day. We've got a bunch of stuff to talk about. You've got the email. It explains some of the things that we're going to be talking about. We'll talk a little bit about me. I think I mentioned to you last week the Muslim people. They're just so faithful. And this week was no exception. Every week, I have not been going to the YouTube channel and looking to see, or the Facebook channel to see, but I start doing that lately. And every week, there's 4, 5, 6 Muslims who will jump up and tell me how stupid I am, how wrong I am, how foolish I am, how ungodly I am. I don't know anything about their religion. I ought to keep my mouth shut. I'm just a cranky old man, all that sort of thing. Well, I got my Quran with me tonight. And so we're going to be talking a little bit about that. Do you know anything about Purim? That is a Jewish celebration. It happens either in March or April, depending on what the calendar is like. If you're not Jewish, it probably doesn't mean a whole lot to you, but we're going to see what it means to them, and it's fascinating. In my church in New Jersey, we had a Jewish missionary come one time at this spring of the year, and we actually had a traditional Jewish Purim celebration. Kids brought all the noisemakers and all that stuff. They had a great time. It'd be something worth doing in your church. We're going to look at some of the current events of things that have been going on. The Donald was in a meeting with the Chancellor of Germany, and they said there were ice cubes hanging from the ceiling. I don't believe them, but it was a chilly thing. We'll see how that... Also, Turkey's... I know he's a chancellor. He wants to be the dictator. He wants to be the head honcho there, and he wants everybody to vote to get him to do it. He is hot. He's upset with the European Union, and he's threatening another crusade. These people never give up. We're going to look at personality disorders. Studies are showing that upwards of 70% of our millennials have some kind of personality disorder. How do you get a personality disorder? Well, you live with parents who don't treat you like children. Yeah. The baby boomers, and I'm forgetting what the next crowd was, they had their babies, they raised their children, didn't know how to do it. And now we've got all this. If you're old like me, you remember the bell curve. Remember the book? It was a whole big book. Guy made the rounds on the radio and TV, and they just beat him up one side and down the other. I did a whole segment on it in Wilmington on my, I think it was when I was doing the weekday show. I'm not sure. I can't remember what format it was. I did a Sunday night show there. I also did a year where I did a 2-hour weeknight show from 6 to 8. And then I would jump in with, what's his name, on Saturday mornings. And so there were 2 or 3 different venues that anyway, we talked about the bell curve. And I remember as I was talking to the host about this bell curve, it was like this whole glaze came over his face. What is that all about? It's nothing. It's back. It hasn't gone away. And it's charging people up the same as it did in the beginning. It's an important issue. I put in the newsletter this week that we would be talking about Israel's third temple. But that has become such a big subject, I'm not going to do that tonight. We're going to wait and do that next week. I have a missionary friend in New York who is missionary to Jews, and he gets the thing, and then he gave me a lot more than I knew. And so I decided to back off, and we'll do it again. But it's coming. And you need to know what that means in the life of Israel. How did Jesus call out false teachers? Did he talk about them and say, well, they mean well? Well, we're godly people. I am the Son of God. We don't want to say anything negative. We want to be positive, but they do have some confusion. There's some things no. Called them hypocrites. Called them a hypocrite in the strongest possible way. Called them evil men who would teach false doctrine. Called them out. Pronounced woes upon them. A woe is a serious God thing. The destruction might come upon you kind of statement upon these people. And he did it in all kinds of situations. And I think about that when I think about people complaining that I say that group over there or that person over there is wrong, they're bad, they're not teaching it right. I mean, if you had a scientist that came along and started telling you that things were different than what science has always seen that they are in experiments, and they took this and that, and they mixed this 2 chemicals, and then it boils up, and no, it's really not like that. You'd throw that guy out. But today, that's exactly what's happening in the church. Because biblical concepts are scientific. It's the science of interpretation. Words mean things, and they only mean what they mean. Can't mean other things. But that's what we're doing. We're changing that meaning. And then they're hollering at people like me. Anyway, we've got a full schedule, a lot of things to talk about. And we got to get started. I don't know, how long have we been going here? 15 minutes already? It might be good to stop this recording and start a new one. And we'll take a look at the news. What other kind of news has happened in the world this week? Let's see what it is.